listening to Speaking with One Voice with Rodney Payne. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, topics you'd like discussed on the show, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show, please email us at rpayne@onevoiceinc.org. That's rpayne@onevoiceinc.org. You can also search for us on Acast, Google Play, SoundCloud, and iTunes. Just look for Speaking with One Voice. Now, here's your host, Rodney Payne.
Hello and welcome to Speaking with One Voice. I am your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. I am excited to be back with you for another episode of the podcast that's devoted to adding value to you and your leadership team. As always, I have to stop and tell you thank you. Listen, our footprint is growing. You are liking the podcast, you're rating it, you're subscribing to it, and for that, I am grateful. Make sure you are following us on all of our social media platforms at Rodney R. Payne, and always go by rodneyrpayne.com to get the latest information on how we can help and add value to you and your team. Listen, before I get started, I want to make an announcement that October 19th, right here in Oklahoma City, we are having Live to Lead 2026 OKC. Now, what Live to Lead is we have it every year. We have the John Maxwell speakers come in virtually. We bring in local speakers, and this year's lineup is going to be no different than in past. We're going to bring a world-class leadership team, expertise, influence, culture, business growth, organizational transformation, you name it, we're going to have it. The lineup this year, obviously, we've got the guru himself, John C. Maxwell. We got Dan Heath, Stephanie Chung. Oh my goodness, she's amazing. Catherine McLay and Rory Vaden are our virtual speakers for this event. Now, in person, obviously, I'll have to have something for you. I got a topic I can't wait to bring to you. I'm going to hold that as a secret for a little while longer. But I have got Raymond Kemp coming, and he is an amazing talent. Each speaker that we have will bring a unique perspective, practical insight, proven leadership principles. This is going to add value to your team. Get your tickets now. Right now, the early bird special is $79. You're not going to get this price later. This is super, super early, super, super price. So you'll get a free lunch with that. So make sure you go and get your tickets, rodneyrpayne.com/live2-lead-OKC-2026, rodneyrpayne.com/live-OKC-2026, and you can get your tickets today. Well, that's enough of that. Let's get into the topic. For about the next 6 weeks, actually, I'm going to start a series today. So in your notes, I kind of want you to get prepared for this. We're going to talk about the 5 keys to keeping your leadership on target. What are the 5 keys? Well, we'll get to the 5 keys, but the overall goal is that we're going to focus. 5 keys to keeping your leadership on target. That's what we're going to talk about. So it's going to be a nice little acronym, and you'll see it as it unveils. We'll roll it out to you slowly. But today I want to talk to you about frustration. Frustration, the hidden fuel for transformative leadership. Frustration, the hidden fuel for transformative leadership. Now, when I said frustration, I know that I have struck a nerve with every leader because every leader experiences frustration. You cannot escape it. I don't care how long you lead. I don't care how well you lead. I don't care what systems you have in place. I don't care how experienced you are. You will not be able to evade this thing called frustration. But when we think about frustration, really what we think about are those things that take us out of our character, take us out of the normal process, that put us in a place of disruption, that people perform under par. People don't do what they're supposed to, or circumstances didn't work out, or you put your best effort into it and it still didn't come out. I want to know, am I there yet? Have I gotten to you? Have I stepped on your toes yet? I know that frustration can be a challenge for us, but what happens when we take this frustration from a negative perspective and turn it into a positive motivator. I often talk about this, that the only leadership lesson that is a bad lesson is the one that you don't learn. So how about this? When we look at frustration, if we can understand the source of the frustration, if the frustration leads us as a catalyst to correct a problem, then frustration was actually worth it. So the first thing we're going to talk about when looking at this frustration being this fuel for transformative leadership is we have to understand it. You have to understand. Frustration, just by definition, it means feeling of being upset or annoyed due to the inability to change or achieve something. See, frustration is not there when I can change it or when I can achieve it, but when there's something that's blocking me from reaching my goals, that becomes extremely frustrating when things are out of my control. Like, for instance, one of the things that I just don't like, if I can be honest with you, is I don't like technology. Well, that's not true. I don't like technology that does not work. That's what I don't like. So when I'm trying to do something and bring you the latest and greatest content right here on Speaking with One Voice, and I can't get my technology to cooperate, transparent moment, just before this episode, I lost all of my notes. Oh, that's frustrating because I couldn't fix it. I couldn't figure it out. So I went to the backup, to the backup, to the backup, and finally I found it. My poor producer, he was trying to help me, trying to figure out maybe it's here, maybe it's there. But it was frustrating because it was stopping me from being able to deliver content to you. So that's the challenge with what frustration is. Now, understand, according to Gallup, 70% of employees report being disengaged, often due to frustration with workplace issues. So now when frustration is present, what happens is it slows up the effectiveness of the team and stops us from getting our jobs done. And I'm talking to the tune of 70%. That's 7 out of 10 things that you need to get done that you're not going to get done, all because you are frustrated. So when we learn how to deal with this frustration, what's going to happen is we're going to differentiate ourselves as leaders, differentiate ourselves in the marketplace, and we're going to help to leverage this thing. Well, how can we do it? Well, what we have to do, write this one down. You got to get this one. We have to transform frustration into action. That's right. Transform frustration into action. How do I do that? Well, first, I have to learn how to admit my frustration. I have to admit it before I can mitigate it, right? I know some people who don't like using quote unquote negative terms, so they don't really admit them. They don't acknowledge them. Well, if you don't acknowledge it, it cannot be fixed. I often use the illustration that I know that athletes are tough and they can play hurt, but they can't play injured, right? So they'll not admit that they have an injury. Well, if you have a compound fracture in your forearm, you're going to have to go to the doctor about that. It's not a sign of weakness, but when your arm is going in two different directions where it shouldn't have a bend, you've got to go get the thing reset and fixed so that you can. Now, I watched players in college and pros, they get it casted up, get it set, and they go back out and play. But if you don't address it, you cannot correct it. You need to write that one down. If you don't address it, you cannot correct it. So when you think about creating techniques, what happens is you're getting on top of the thing through very specific processes. I like to use what I call mindfulness techniques. When I think about something and I think before I react, I think before I act, which leads me to one of my number one rules. Never respond to any crisis immediately that doesn't require an immediate response. Never respond in emotion. Give yourself time and a space to think. Now, not everyone is a thinker. A lot of people are emotional responders. They're spontaneous in how they respond. They're results oriented and just say pull the trigger and deal with the results. And then there are contemplative thinkers. For everyone except the contemplative thinker, you need to think about this. Give yourself a specific time, a thought parking lot, if you will, that will allow you to go and think about what is the frustration, look at it from an objective perspective and figure out, why am I here? What am I feeling? What am I going through? What do we have to do? When you do that, you'll give yourself time and space to really get a plan together to turn that frustration into motivation. Now, for my contemplative thinkers, I want to encourage you to have the same parking lot. I only encourage you that when you get the parking lot, listen closely, put a time limit on it. If you are a very investigative thinker, if you're a deep thinker, if you get caught up in the paralysis of analysis, give yourself a thinking parking lot with a list and a time limit. Meaning that when you go to that thinking space, you got 30 minutes. When the clock is up, your thinking time is up. That will stop you from chasing rabbits. That will stop you from going all over the place. It will help you to focus in and get through the thinking that you have to get through before you can answer the problem. For the rest of us, we need to find the thinking parking lot to take the emotion out and take the responsiveness, to take the knee-jerk reactions out so that we can get effective responses. So not only should we look at using mindfulness techniques to really transform frustration into action, let's go to open discussions. Here's the challenge. Frustration shows up in your body language. Frustration shows up on your face, in your mannerisms, in your tone, in the quickness or brevity of your voice. Let's pause, create an open environment where we can literally have open discussions. A lot of frustrations can be solved if we simply talk through them. You just got to take your time. You got to talk through them until you get to the other side. Now, in discussions, it has to be a safe space. It has to be open. There has to be what I call two-way communication. If you're upset with someone and you go to them just to express how upset or frustrated you are, but you never give them a chance to respond and or to share their frustrations, that's a monologue, not a dialogue, and usually gets you nowhere. As a leader who wants to turn frustration into action, you have to have open discussion. Now, if you want open discussion, what you have to make sure that you include as a part of this process would be an open feedback loop. Constructive criticism, open feedback loop. That means that everyone gets to have their say for the purpose of construction, not destruction, and you have to be willing to receive what you're willing to give. I recently had a meeting with a colleague, and we were talking about things that we had an interaction that didn't go as we thought it should. We didn't give responses on either side like we thought we should. But the colleague sat with me and they said, wait, just listen for a second. They said, just hear me out. When they said, just hear me out, that was my cue to be quiet, to listen, to understand, not just to give feedback, and to lean in. It changed the whole tone of the conversation because they were offering feedback. It wasn't positive for me. It was constructive. I didn't necessarily enjoy it, but I understood. Excuse me. So when you understand, now we can have a good conversation. So we didn't have a tit for tat, a back and forth. We had open dialogue. We had constructive criticism that allowed us to understand. And then in the conversation, we were literally able to equip the other person. I'll say it this way, license them with a proper way to approach us and say, listen, you don't have to worry about that. In the future, if this happens, don't wait, don't wonder, don't think, just come to me and say it like this. And I promise you that we will hear you and we will work through it. And they said, I'll do the same thing. So now what happened was we had frustration turned into action. And now we've got re-engagement and reconnection of two of the strongest leaders within the organization that are now on the same page. Was it a difficult conversation? I'm kind of confrontational, so most conversations are not difficult for me in that regard, but it wasn't fun. It wasn't easy, but it was super productive, and we've got some action out of that. So I want to encourage you that you can take those things that are frustrating and turn them into action. You are listening to Speaking with One Voice with your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. I'm here each and every week to add value to you and your leadership team. Don't forget, we've got Live to Lead 2026 right here in Oklahoma City on October 19th, and you go to rodneyrpayne.com/live2 lead-OKC-2026. So we are talking about frustration, the hidden fuel for transformative leadership. We've talked about, you have to understand frustration, first of all. You have to know that it's really defined as a feeling of being upset or annoyed due to the inability to change or achieve something. We talked about how to transform frustration into action and creating feedback loops and focused on this whole process. In that transformation process, in a case study of a successful leader, Howard Schultz of Starbucks turned his frustration over underperforming stores into a robust turnaround strategy by focusing heavily on employee training and customer experience. So the reason I share that is because The way he overcame his frustration was by identifying the problem, and the problem showed up in training and customer service. I'm not going to say that I frequent this place. I'm saying, but where I get my coffee on a regular basis, every time I walk in the door, they say, "Hey, Rodney, how you doing? Hey, Rodney, have a great day." They know me by name. They put my name on my order, of course, but the customer service is amazing, and my coffee is always right. That's going to make a difference. And that was birth. That transformation came from frustration. There's always something good on the other side if you'll take the time to look at it. Let's talk about this. I want to really get deeper into this thought here because this is where many of us struggle. We have to create an open environment for discussion. We just talked about feedback and we talked about how to have those conversations. But I think that we have to go back a little further, dig a little deeper, and understand the importance of transparency when discussing frustrations. The natural thought process would be it's already a difficult conversation, it's challenging. So let me make it easier by not opening that can of worms. So I'll get to the table, I'll have a discussion, but I don't have a complete discussion. So if you have an incomplete discussion, you will get an incomplete result. Listen, write that down. If you don't tell the whole story, you're not going to get the whole answer. Oh goodness, there's so much there. Let me see if I can go just a little bit deeper. See, when you have openness and you're clear, it gives you the ability to innovate. It gives you the ability to problem solve. But if you don't have everything on the table because we don't have a transparent environment, it leaves you with subpar answers that don't get the problem solved. And actually, they compound the problem because if you're going to hold something back, it's usually that thing that's even worse than what you shared. It's deeper than what you shared. So what you're doing is you're addressing surface issues, and surface issues don't differentiate us from our competitors. We have to be leaders who are willing to get to the root cause of the problem, do the hard work to get it done, and change it. We have difficult conversations, but it makes a difference in how we perform. Listen, a report by Salesforce indicates that companies with strong intentional communication had 47% higher employee retention. See, when we have open communication, there's no fear of me losing my job for sharing my opinion. I've had the opportunity to work with all kinds of leaders, and my leaders have worked with other leaders. In a recent discussion I had with one of my clients, they have a leader who is very, very successful from a financial perspective. They're very successful in building a brand and building a business, but they are a tyrannical ruler. They are horrible to work for. They literally communicate all night long as if they get no sleep. They have a global business and they are just so hard on their people. They demean their people. They degrade their people publicly in public forums. They are a nightmare to work for. And as a result, there's no open discussion. So when you are unwilling, listen to this, when you are unwilling to have open discussion in your team will have open discussion without you about you. And what you'll find is you'll always be looking for the next shiny toy of an employee until you abuse them out of your team. Leaders, how you measure success has to be more than dollars and cents. It has to be culture. It has to be legacy. It has to be workplace environment. And if you want to know how you're doing as a leader, a KPI that you must engage in is employee retention. Are they staying? Are they growing within your organization? Or are you becoming just a turnstile? You just keep turning. And I know what many leaders talk themselves into believing is, we have a very high standard. We don't just let anybody work here. And so you have to be able to handle the grind in order to work here. I'm 100% in favor of hard work. I believe everybody should do a full day's work for a full day's pay. I believe in that. I also believe it's leadership abuse when you lead the numbers but don't lead the people. I often quote John Maxwell. One of his quotes that I just absolutely love, I'll give you a couple of them here. One is that everyone deserves to be led well, and abuse is not being led well. No one deserves to be abused by their leader. You have two options. You grow them, you train them, you invest in them, or you move on from them because they're not willing to be a part of the brand. But whatever you do, you don't abuse them. Now, I'm going to give you one that's a little bit more, I'll call it a little more sappy, but I think it's necessary. John says this. He says, the minute you stop loving people is the minute you should stop leading people. Let me say that again. The minute you stop loving people is the minute you should stop leading people. So we really talked about how we can turn this thing called frustration into a positive. Frustration can be the fuel for creativity. Frustration can be the fuel for reconciliation. Frustration can be the key to a new process. Frustration can be the key to job satisfaction, employee retention. Understand frustration. You're upset. You're annoyed. I get it. Every leader experiences it. But we've got to learn to transform our frustration into action. And that happens when we create an open environment for discussion. Oh my goodness, I am out of time. I really hope that you got the benefit of this. I want you to understand that there's potential. When you harness this frustration, it can lead to your growth. I want you to reflect on your own frustrations and how you might redirect them or rechannel them. Listen, you are an outstanding leader. I believe in you. I know you can do it. And I'm excited about what you're going to do in your organization as you transform frustration into transformative growth. Listen, you've been listening to Speaking with One Voice with your host, Coach Rodney Payne. As always, I am so excited to be here adding value to you and your team each and every week. Make sure you click on that subscribe button, follow button, like and share, and use this for your team. I want to challenge you. Why don't you take the transcript of this and put it as an outline for your team meeting? Get your team together and let's transform frustration within your organization. That is all for my time. Thank you for being here. Make sure you stay tuned. This is only the first part of Focus, the 5 keys to keeping your leadership on target. We'll get to the O next week. That's it for my time. Thank you for listening to Speaking with One Voice. I am your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. Until next time, my friends, let's keep growing together.
You've been listening to Speaking with One Voice. Please remember to follow Rodney Payne on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Rodney R. Payne. We'd love to hear from you and get your feedback, so please feel free to leave us comments. And if you would, rate and subscribe to the podcast, we'd appreciate that as well. Don't forget to set up for notifications so you can get the latest updates and social media posts and get new podcasts when they're released. As always, use the hashtag Speaking with One Voice or simply SWOV on any of your social media posts. On behalf of Rodney Payne, thanks again for listening.